Gino, thanks for coming in and talking with me. You were sharing with me at another gathering when we met about better together transportation, and so really I want to start off by just asking you a little bit about that, and you know, what is the mission behind better together transportation?
Jody,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure.
absolutely.
The mission behind Better Together Transportation is to unite people by bringing them together. And so we provide rides that bridge the gap between isolated people and community. That's the core.
Okay. And what when there was a time before better together transportation, and then there was a moment when the idea came to you. So tell me about that moment and how that came about.
Funnily enough, the idea came as I was pulling weeds in a garden,
Okay.
and I just had a neighbor there, and I asked him, what if we live in a world where we could bring people and help people get to each other for free and that people could spend time with each other? But the time before Better Together as an organization, I was driving paratransit,
Okay.
which is taking people to dialysis or doctor's office. That revealed to me that the people I was taking were not getting better. And I thought they're not getting better because they have little reason to live. I believe if you see your son or your wife or the people you love, you have a tremendous reason to live. And the organization is to help people do that.
I think probably a lot of us don't even experience that gap or understand that there's a population of people that are, lack of a better word, landlocked in their home, or don't have the resources to go see their loved ones. But you're saying there is a group of people that are like that. Um,
There's a tremendous group of people. I was at a demographic conference for aging, and it said about 43% of older adults live alone in North Carolina.
43%.
That's what they stated.
Wow.
And yes, it's almost like it's occurring all around us, but we don't see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe because we don't look at it. But the truth is, any individual who lives further away from the city, the minute that they lose their car, either from illness or from inability to drive or a traffic accident, or even poverty, they will know what it's like. You don't think about it until you need it.
Right.
So, yes, there are many, many neighbors who are landlocked, trapped. I just call it isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And part of our goal is to let people know that your neighbors are suffering in a way you may not know. In fact, you'd be surprised how close they are to you. They could be a house or two away.
Right. You mentioned that you were working prior to this, kind of working with that population, but for the hospital system. Is that right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Also for nursing homes and individuals, private individuals at home as well.
And you were noticing that I guess they are able to have transportation for going to their appointments at the hospital and stuff like that. But outside of that, there was this gap.
Yes, there exist transportation options in general that are focused on medical transit. That is the crux of most municipalities. They all have their own mountain mobility. They have their own Apple County Transit in Hendersonville. Each county uses our taxes to get people to the doctor because people physically dying is bad. It looks bad.
Right.
And it's just horrible for your society. And so people focus on that, the well-being of the human body. But the human body is mind, body, and spirit.
Mm.
And these rides are not helping our spirit. And research is increasingly showing that isolation is as bad for health as smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Surgeon General report in 2023 said that it's up to like 13 cigarettes a day just being alone to your overall health.
All right.
So, yeah, the gap that you said is a gap in relational transportation. That's what we call it.
Mm-hmm.
Relational transportation, taking a person to be with other human beings.
Right. So there's funding, there's tax dollars, as you mentioned, there's organizations and companies that are doing transportation back and forth from the home for medical appointments. But as you were able to um, witness and understand, there's a lack of transportation that feeds the soul. Right?
That's a wonderful way to put it. Some people call our rides fun rides,
Yeah.
life enrichment rides. I call them rides of dignity, or they give people purpose. But you could call it any of those things. Yeah. But
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. But I mean, but then, after kind of making that kind of realization and looking around and thinking, well, there's not an entity that is filling this gap. You took it upon yourself to start something. I commend you for that.
Thank you. I did use my money to start this. It was the accumulated money I'd made working just in life. But I came to a point where I considered buying a house. And I said, what good is my comfort and my safety if all around me my neighbors are suffering? It didn't seem like the right investment. This felt like the right investment. And it's changed lives for the better. I do not want to discredit the existing transit that exists.
No.
Mountain Mobility and others do, with limited capacity, try to assist with the social aspects of living. Independence rides, life-affirming rides. But because their prerogative is medical transit, ensuring people don't immediately die, those rides fall to the wayside. And as medical needs grow, the social rides continue to diminish. My thinking is a lot of the medical symptoms that we are treating in society today arise from the root causes caused from social isolation. Forgive me this analogy, but I spoke with a pastor at a church in our area, and he made the point to me that if you imagine a person as an interconnected unit of a community, that a person's soul has gaps, a person's needs has gaps. And when you bring other people, it fills the gaps, and you have a whole body. But if you take this away, if you take the people away from another person, they are left with the gaps. And what a person tends to do is fill it with vices, dopamine, screen time, all sorts of unhealthy behaviors that produce the symptoms medical communities treat.
Right.
But if you just bring people to people, there's no space for evil to grow.
Right. It makes me think of like something I heard one time about, health and going upstream, right? So everyone downstream, or let's use the analogy of a community that uses a well, and everyone starts getting sick and no one knows why. And so do you start just treating all the people for their illnesses, or do you go test the well and see, is the water that they're drinking from the well been contaminated? That kind of thought pattern of going upstream, finding out the root causes. And we do seem to be in a society where it is very much just, treat the symptom.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is changing.
Yeah.
The medical community itself is realizing that the sheer amount of poisoned people, by your well analogy, is going to be too many to bear in the system. And they are increasingly valuing and looking at upstream solutions. They are terming this as the social determinants of health.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that.
That's the go-to phrase in medical community today, and they're trying to define what that is. They seem to believe that is one of the upstream causes. And again, as you point out, if you cure the well, you cure the illnesses. I believe that social determinants of health really means human connection, which gives people a purpose, and human spirit enlightens it.
Absolutely.
And so if you treat that, the maladies that come after disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I think the community at large is realizing this because the way we're going, the continuous treatment of downstream things ends in disaster.
Yeah. So, give us some examples. So, of like some of the types of rides and, some of the social connections that people are reaching out for transportation to help help them make through your rides.
Are filled with joy. I'd love to share some of the stories. They move me. Uh, Almost every other week, we get a call from a lady who's half blind, and she calls us because she wants to visit her husband in a nursing home. And so I take her there and I walk her to the room,
Mm.
and she stays there for upwards of 6 to 8 hours. And every time I return to pick her up, she's just beside her husband, often just holding his hand. Or one time she said she wheeled him out to the congregate outside area and said it was the first time he could feel the sun in weeks. And I look forward to her calls. That is one of our priority rides in terms that it is a highly relational ride.
Okay.
There is few transport organizations that would take that ride on, mainly because there's no way to bill for hand-holding. Similarly, strangely enough, I had a fully blind man ask to go see his wife, who is also at a nursing home. They both worked at the IFB Solutions, which is a center for the blind, for employment, and they fell in love there. And she goes to see him. We also had a ride of a gentleman who had brain cancer, and he wanted to go have dinner with his wife and his daughter, who lived at a college farther away, and she would drive halfway to meet him. And I took them to many of these dinners, including his birthday dinner. This gentleman, Jeff, passed away, and that to me shows the value of this work, because though he has gone, the memory of what those trips created in those who remain, his daughter and his wife, persist and will stay with them a long, long time.
Got it.
That's just some of the rides. There's so many others.
Yeah.
Some that aren't as serious. I mean, I take a lady who just wants to go play bridge with her friends.
Sure.
Because she lost the ability to drive. And all of her friends convene at different houses to play these games. And she would be pulled away from that group. And we just drive her there.
Yeah. Yeah. Our mobility is so, important. I think I've seen people that when they lose their mobility, even their cognitive decline seems more rapid. I mean, just to be, navigating and out and having access and freedom and, choices, all the choices you're making along the way are good for your mental clarity. And so I agree with the work you're doing. Yeah.
It's so good for a person to not feel like they're in a cage. It's so important for a person to have a sense of autonomy and independence that gives you joie de vivre, that makes you able to live. But you pointed out something that our many of the adult day services in our county recognize, that one way that dementia is treated, or it isn't possible to fix it, but it's possible to slow the progression, is that they bring people with dementia into congregate settings, like mountain aging partners and places like that, so that they can stimulate themselves, so that they can build connections in a web that doesn't let them fall into mania or madness. and they have to physically get there. But yes, we recognize the value intrinsic in just doing all of that.
And you said the ride that you were giving that woman to see her husband in the home, that was a high relational, valued ride. So do you guys I know you're kind of, still a small operation, but you're making those kind of assessments on the rides, like what or that you would prioritize a ride, like that over something maybe to the grocery store or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have a priority system because we have a mission,
Mm.
and our work is aligned with completing that mission.
Gotcha.
And so, to make our organization scalable and to make our work durable, we have to prioritize what we can do with the capacity we have. And the system I have come up with is that people get up to 3 round trip rides per month,
Okay.
but rides that are relational are scheduled first.
Gotcha.
And as we defined before, a relational ride is simply where the destination is a person, not a service, and not a transaction. We also recognize that for a person to live independently, they still need to be able to do important tasks, like go to the Social Security office to renew their Social Security or to go to groceries. So we do a lot for errands, and participants get up to one a month, a hard cap. But errands are always scheduled below relational rides because that is what we are really trying to do.
Mm-hmm. That's your mission. That's so important. I've worked with and been on boards and around nonprofits for many years, and often a nonprofit starts with a really secure mission that got them going in the first place, and then due to lack of funding and various things, they have to pursue grants that have them kind of it's great because it allows them to expand or grow or whatever, and they need the funding, but often those grants might move them slightly to one side or the other of their mission and so on and so forth, and can get easily you can drift from your mission. So, having that in place that you guys are about relational rights and you're prioritizing those show, that you're dedicated to your mission.
It is easy to be led astray in this world, whether as a person or as a nonprofit,
Mm.
due to the pressures. As you said, if you start chasing money and expand your scope, you have mission creep.
Mm.
And by the end of that creep, where do you end up? I try to think downwind and say, where will we be if we take this action? If we accept this money that changes who we are? That is why one of the things we don't do is medical transit, being that it's already provided, and that doing so would swallow us and what we are able to do. But in general, I feel like a lot of my work is preserving the mission and putting it at the forefront in our designs for any type of growth.
So, who is Gino? You seem like you have a very, very strong moral fortitude, and I feel that from you. But like, who is Gino? Where are you from? What's your story? What's your story?
I have no real professional background. I was simply a waiter for most of my life, working in service industries, talking to people. And then I worked for a couple years in paratransit, again, talking to people. I think what Gino is and who I am is nothing more than the aggregate ideas of all the wonderful people I've met in my life and the ideas I've tried to blossom within myself through I read a lot of philosophy and different religious texts, and they help shape principles and values, and I try to live according to those. Uh, but as for who I am who I present. I want to be that man.
Mm.
And much of this work I do, part of it is because I feel like it must be done. It comes from a deep sense of duty. which is aligned with all the principles, because really all my principles come from the loving people telling me what is a good way to live, and me taking that and forming something within me.
Yeah.
But the other part I do this work is that when it comes my time to go, like some of our riders have already gone, I want to go with peace. And I think perhaps the only way to do that is to live a life of integrity.
Mhm.
And so I do this work.
Mhm. That's wonderful. What a great conversation. I will ask you one more thing that I just wanna hear a little. Are there future plans for, Better Together, transportation?
There's a lot of plans.
Mhm.
On a day-to-day level, I focus on being present with the riders and helping them accomplish tasks. But I am building systems that would allow growth and expansion and the inclusion of people into the organization. One of those things is I am trying to pilot a volunteer program, not with
Okay.
drivers, although that can come,
Mhm.
but rather that some of the people that are requesting rides are afraid simply because they're so isolated. They have no one to go to. Remember, a relational ride is going to see someone,
Mhm.
but their social circle has shrunk so much. So I am trying to pilot an idea where companions can come along or join them on an outing
Great.
and therefore build connections between each other
Mhm.
that can persist even though our van is not driving them. Like, you create a web. The other way I'm expanding is internally, I am coding an entire dispatch software. I have the alpha of it out, and I am currently testing it.
Okay.
But what that allows is all of these systems that I've created can be formalized, and you can train and include a dispatcher or an operator into the system. It also has printouts for drivers. I'm already developing systems like that. But that is one of our expansion goals. And to achieve this, we are reaching out to different professional institutions, including the Y and the adult day centers, to help them get clients to their services. We're trying to find letters of intent and interest to then convince capital founders to help us get that second van, to help us get that second driver, and then prove that they can be immediately committed to use. One of the beauties of our program is if you connect people, you are helping all the different institutions within your city. The adult day centers can serve more people. The feeding areas can feed more people. They get more people to their program. And we can collaborate on that level,
Right.
but only if we grow.
Yeah. Gino, I see great things coming your way, and, great work you're doing. Thank you for coming in and talking with us.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure,
Great.
Jody. It's I love talking about this.
Yeah.
Because it can change lives for the better.